Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest and most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and on occasion, make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a story titled Easter Throwaway Husband. And guys, this story is all about a guy. He's been married for, a few years. He's in his upper 20s. And he thought he was in the perfect marriage. Everything was wonderful. And then lo and behold, one day on Easter Sunday, of all days, he discovers some suspicious activity. And he finds on his wife's phone pictures of her, let's just say, rolling in the hay with someone other than him, and other spicy pictures, which led him down the path to certainly going scorched earth on the divorce process. So you're going to see here, a lot of times women perceive guys to be their kindness for weakness when she messed with the wrong guy. Now, this is a longer story, guys. I think you'll enjoy it, so I'm going to get right into it and minimize the commentary unless it's absolutely necessary. So it starts off, it says here, I, 20-year-old male, found evidence that my wife, a 27-year-old female, was having an affair on Easter Sunday. The next day I confronted her with irrefutable evidence. I left and have not spoken to her, nor do I plan to. We are divorcing, but I feel like even that is a pointless gesture, as utterly destroyed as I am. My wife and I had what I thought was the perfect relationship. We were best friends and seemed to benefit each other in a multitude of ways. We grew up together and dated our last 2 years of high school all the way through college. Physically, we were each other's first everything of S-word nature. Well, that's what he thinks. We attended the same university in different fields of study and married 2 years after graduation. We moved to a major city near our hometown to be near our families. I got a job as an engineer making a very decent salary with benefits. She got a job teaching at a high-profile private school, which she loved. Together we made great money, so we always spent much time together. We traveled, we dined out frequently, and every night felt like date night. Sounds like the perfect relationship. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. It says here, even among a group of friends, there was always the two of us together. We were so stupidly happy they could have put our goofy love grins at the same photo in picture frames for sale. Our SEX life was great and always had been. Less than 4 times a week was considered a dry spell for us. Wow, that's impressive for a married couple. We had a great life in general. Well, at least that's what I thought. I thought we had a great life together, but I came to realize all that was a lie. We were planning to try to have children soon. That totally blindsided me. I cannot stop crying. I wanted to be a father someday. Now that's an impossibility. Well, it's not impossible. You just have to start over. But I guarantee this guy, the way he's feeling right now, says, no way I'm doing this again. He says, Easter morning at the break of dawn, we were supposed to help at our church hiding Easter eggs on the property for kids to find later. We got up and threw on some clothes without showering before driving to the church together. We groggily helped hide obvious eggs for the small children and more secretive eggs for the other kids later that day. My wife took many pictures on her phone of us as well as many members of the congregation. We all ended up having coffee and donuts while conversing before heading home. I'd driven to the church, but I got my wife to drive us home. She commented she was going to go back to bed for a few hours when we got back. I wanted to preview the college basketball championship game the next day because my father was a Baylor graduate. We brought my wife's iPad along, which I used all the time like it was my very own. I never ever expected to see anything, and she didn't anticipate showing me anything. Well, technology can always come bite you in the butt if you are being disloyal. He says, I'm not very tech savvy, so I still don't know what happened exactly. But I was reading an article and we were walking into the house. In the lower right corner, an icon appeared that said something about photos, then picture after picture appeared one on top of the other. I don't know if my wife's phone was syncing to the iPad or Wi-Fi. Again, I'm at a loss. I saw the pictures were the only ones my wife had just taken minutes before outside the church. So I continued reading. Suddenly, a few pictures flashed by that looked like they contained nudity, which was very out of character for my wife. He didn't miss that. Imagine if he just happened to be looking the other way when those nude pictures flashed by. He could have missed the whole thing. I tried tapping on the pictures to go back, but it was like the pictures weren't on the iPad. It just showed each one to me for a split second. I opened the photo file on the iPad, but nothing remotely spicy was stored on the iPad that I could find. I realized that none of the photos taken at the church were on the iPad, yet I'd seen them flash by. My wife went into the kitchen and got a bottle of water to take with her as she headed back to bed. I watched her walk up the stairs, and for the first time in the history of our relationship, I felt like she might be hiding something from me. That sucks. He thought everything was great, and this happens. I searched every file I could find on the iPad, hoping I could find what I'd seen. But I eventually realized to ease my mind, I'd have to check my wife's phone. I walked upstairs and found her sleeping soundly in our bed. I grabbed her phone off the charge and took it into our bathroom. We never had an open or closed phone policy. We just used each other's devices at will with nothing to hide. So, discovering her passcode had changed my heart, made my heart nearly stop. I tried again and again at different speeds. No doubt it had been changed. My eyes welled up from tears just knowing my wife was probably hiding something from me. It was a sign that there was something unknown to me and I truly needed to know. I walked back in the bedroom and placed her phone back in the charger. Part of me wanted to believe I was crazy or that I just thought I saw something risque, but my mind was playing tricks on me. I had actually imagined discovering what I saw was nothing carnal and laughing about what I thought it actually was, but the passcode got me. You know, he's probably really hoping, oh, please, just maybe this is just a figment of my imagination. It was something else. Who knows? It's not her. I guarantee he was hoping that. But then the password was changed, and then he was thinking, no, something has to be up. I tried acting normal as possible. She knew me better than anyone, so keeping all emotions welled up while at the same time being sneaky was difficult. But late that afternoon, when she was in the kitchen, I heard her text alert. I popped around the corner just in time to see her enter a brand new code, so I knew I wasn't losing my mind completely. Later that night, after she'd gone to bed, I again took her phone into the bathroom. I entered the new code and opened her photo file. How do you know what her code was? Was he like literally watching her type in the numbers or something like that? That would have been pretty impressive. To my surprise, nothing close to a photo containing nudity was anywhere on the phone. I even found the photos she'd taken at the church that morning. Nothing spicy was among them. I was just about to close the app when I decided to look for deleted photos. To my surprise, I found 2 photos of my wife nude and partially nude, along with a shot of some guy other than me. Oh man, that sucks. Well, he was obviously right. I quickly sent all 3 pictures to my own phone, then deleted that text as well as the photos. I placed my wife's phone back in the holder, walked down the stairs to the downstairs restroom to make less noise, and vomited like I'd been given something. That poor guy. I'd never seen either picture of my wife that. I'd never ever seen a picture of my wife like that before. She didn't do that sort of thing, and I didn't really desire it. I could always have her to myself soon enough, given the next opportunity, and I already knew how beautiful she was naked. We just felt like photos like that could always come back to haunt people. Well, it's come back to haunt her. She and I were too united as one, and we had no need to share our intimacy with the world. So we thought. Or so I thought. I sure didn't know who the guy was in the picture. I looked at it and felt angry, even having no idea who he was or if my wife knew him in any way. After I stopped hurling my guts out, I laid on the floor and cried like a little child. I've never cried harder in my life, but I knew something was wrong. I could feel it. I got a few hours of sleep next to my wife before I had to get up for work. Every project I was working on got put on hold as I researched how to recover text from a phone. As it turns out, since the plan we had was in my name through my employer, I could access every message and picture sent via text. Long story short, I recovered raunchy messages, selfies, and yes, even pictures and a video together. All there. I could say I went and vomited again, but I was dry heaving. I got rid of the last thing I could throw up at 2 a.m. Oh my God. So those weren't the only pictures, videos, and other things like that. And this goes to show, he said they were together in high school and college, and they got married. So in his mind, that she'd never been with anybody else. So let's just say, for argument's sake, this is true. That kills the idea that, oh, you know, if you marry a gal that's a virgin, then no problem, she'll pair bond with you and everything's cool. Not the case. Not the case. And I've seen this in many stories. I went down to my car and cried so hard I thought my eyes would bleed. I couldn't imagine the nightmare I was living was real. But I knew instantly everything with my wife, my best friend, was over, and every dream I had was gone. I yelled primal screams of rage. I was thankful she wasn't there at the moment of discovery. I didn't know what I was capable of, and I didn't want her to see me like that. I couldn't think what to do, where to go, or who to call. I was just in shock, and the person I would have turned to at the time like that was the very person who had destroyed me. I knew what had started off as an unproductive morning was certain to be an unproductive day. I went back inside, met with another team member of the company project that we were doing, and then I left work. I didn't even want to look at my wife, so I certainly wasn't going to go back to her school to confront her. I just drove around for hours in shock. I went from tears to rage and back again. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. I thought of emailing her and both our families all the information I'd found and then driving my car off a ravine. No. Ending it all is not the answer. No. I get he feels this way, but no. I truly did want to continue living, and I certainly did want to deal with the confrontation to end our marriage once and for all. This guy, instead of doing the whole, maybe she'll change or something like that, no, he says, I'm done. And that's the way to go. My wife usually got home a few hours from work before I did, so I parked down the street from her school to see where she went when she got off from work. I had in my mind, from what I found, that she had probably head to her lover's house for a quickie after work. But she left and went straight home, oblivious I was following her most of the way. I printed out pages and pages of text and pictures at work to show her what I knew. I anticipated confronting her and her denying anything until I showed her proof, leading to much conversation and fighting. I didn't want that. I didn't want to ever lay eyes on her again, talk to her, or be in her presence ever again. Those pictures in particular ended all love I ever had for her in an instant. Some people are that way. The second that they're done with you, that is it. Boom. In fact, in the course of the day, I went from loving her more than I knew it possible for a human to love to hating her with every fiber of my being. How she could do that to me, what she did was mind-boggling. We were done the second she cheated. I was just the last to get the memo. My mind was all over the place. I just wanted to go into the house, pack a bag, and leave without seeing her or saying a word if possible. When I walked in the front door, she was sitting on the couch texting. Oh my God. I don't know how I didn't lose it right then and there. She may have been texting with her mom, her sister, most anyone, but I knew she wasn't texting me. And that day, I'd learned the odds were high that she was busy doing more things and could cause me more pain. If he stayed with her every time that she texted, he'd be questioning that, amongst many other things. This is why you gotta move on. She smiled and noted I was home early from work. I didn't say a word to her. I just walked into the hall, into our bedroom. I got a suitcase out of the closet and began packing clothes for the work week for my stay at home, for me to stay in a hotel room. She came into the bedroom, saw me packing, asked if I had to go on a small business trip or a sudden business trip. I stopped what I was doing, looked directly at her with a stare of absolute loathing, then continued packing. She walked up to me, asked me what was wrong, and placed her hand on my back. I recoiled from her touch like I just had some dead animal carcass filled with maggots touching me. I turned and yelled at her loudly to never touch me again before pushing her away. When she tried to ask what was wrong, I called her a disease-filled WHORE that deserved to have a hairy poker shoved in her somewhere. Man, this guy's pissed. She had the audacity to look shocked and hurt. That's when I pulled out the stack of papers I copied and threw them on the bed, closed my suitcase, and began to leave. She sat down to look at the papers. Before I got down the hall, I heard her scream, "No!" before breaking down in tears and running to catch me. I made out the door to my car and threw my suitcase in the back. She managed to make it outside before I pulled off. I extended my middle finger in her direction as I drove away. Oh, I told you don't mess with this guy. My phone started going off like a casino slot machine, so I just turned it off. My plan was to completely ghost her and let whatever steps needed to be done for divorce take care by my lawyer. I didn't want to know how they met, why it happened, and what exactly had occurred between them. She knew darn well infidelity was a deal breaker. Why she was even calling, I had no idea, but I didn't care. I got a motel room about a mile from my job and checked in. I walked into an adjacent restaurant and forced down some food that I didn't want to eat. Back in the room, I used the motel phone to call my mom and tell her where I was. She'd been worried, as she's been one of the first people my wife had called after I left. I asked my mom if she'd been told why I left, and she admitted that she hadn't. Well, of course that his wife didn't tell the mom why. She was probably hoping that he wouldn't. I told her what I'd found, explained we'd be divorcing, and I'd be looking for a job in another state, so I never had to run into my soon-to-be ex again and any of her family. I asked her to keep what she knew between her, my dad, and my siblings. My mom cried I mean, I wasn't there to see it, but I sounded like ugly crying in disbelief. But the realization my wife and her family were no longer a part of our lives hurt. I'm sure knowing she'd never hold a grandchild fathered by me hurt a lot too. But she knew how I was raised, so she also knew I was done. This guy was raised in a very religious household, from what I gathered later on in the story. And pretty much if you divorce, then that's that. That's how he was raised. It's not necessarily what many of you, including myself, would agree with, but it's his own life. I was exhausted after the call of my mom, so I cried myself to sleep, only to be awakened by a knock at the door around midnight. I got up and looked out the people to see my soon-to-be ex anxiously waiting for me to open the door. She must have probably traced it because the credit card he probably used at the motel, they probably tracked him down. I couldn't grasp how she found me, much less figured out what room I was in, but I did not want to see her or hear her voice. I told her to get the hell out of there. After what she did to me, she lost any right to even look at my general direction. So again, I used the motel phone, but instead of calling my mom, I called the local police. I stayed in the line explaining the situation as they sent 2 officers. I watched as the police removed my soon-to-be ex from in front of the door and led her over to the squad car. Then one officer knocked on the door and I let him into the room. He assured me they wouldn't let my wife in and asked how I wanted them to proceed. I explained I wanted her to leave me alone and I wanted absolute no contact with her ever again. He and I filled out the necessary paperwork for a restraining order. Man, all this in one night. He made sure the RO was what I wanted, since it would limit me from being able to go back to my house on my own to get things about the police escort. I told him I never wanted to enter that house again. I was done with her and she could have it and the rest of our belongings. He got her to sign the restraining order. I watched her and the cops drive away and they went back to bed for a few hours. Well, I know he's going to get his stuff out of the house unless he considers it just done. I don't know. I made it to work the next day. Everyone asked how I was feeling since they all thought I left due to being ill. I told them I still felt a bit under the weather and told them I'd be working in my office all day just in case what I had was contagious. I called my boss and asked him for a good time to meet in my office. 15 minutes later, he was sitting across from me. I'm sure he was there to get an update on the project my team was working on. When I explained the previous day I discovered my wife had been cheating, he seemed almost as shocked as I was. I didn't begin to mention I lost my place here, guys. I was a little distracted. I'd soon be looking for another job out of state. But I did convey there was no chance of reconciliation, and as far as I was concerned, my wife was dead to me. It was all I could do to maintain a composure and not cry. But I explained to my boss that I planned to dive into my work to distract me from my personal life. I explained at the moment I need the actual work far more than I need the paycheck, which came with it. He assured me I could work as much as I wanted and even crash at my house and my office when needed. I thanked him for his kindness before asking him to keep everything between us until word leaked out. After work that day, I went to my parents' house for dinner. They had all my siblings there and their spouses as well. My parents called me aside as dinner was ending and suggested I let everyone there know what was happening and what was about to happen. There were still a few people eating when I began to talk, but the news sort of ruined everyone's appetite. Must have been a very close family. They all were as shocked and enraged as I had been. 2 of my siblings had gotten calls from my ex when I left and had felt sorry for her. Both wished they had known what was going on so they could have given her a piece of their minds. I assured them that the rest of the family, I just wanted my wife and anyone related to her ignored, blocked from contact, and ostracized. I explained it wasn't her family's fault that my wife is a worthless WHORE. And my wife had proved she was unworthy of any attention, positive or negative, sent her way. Very smart. I then explained I would be looking for a new job in another state over the coming weeks. Some family members were angered. They weren't mad at me for feeling that is what I need to do. They were mad at my wife, sinned, and I was being punished by removed from those that love and care about me. It didn't seem even remotely fair. I agreed. But the chances of getting every human related to her to leave that state out of shame wasn't happening. This guy has a very interesting background, family life. It's rare. I'd like to know where he lives, too. It continues. The next day I met with my lawyer for the first time. We live in a fault state. Aha. So the stack of papers proving infidelity was a welcome sight to her. I tried to approach the meeting with 100% logic and no emotion. All emotions are temporary, and letting your emotions lead you through life is a recipe for utter chaos. I agree with that. I explained she and her staff would need to be the go-between for my wife, and until divorce was finalized. I also explained there was a restraining order in place. I told her I didn't care about any of our possessions. Everything we owned reminded me of my soon-to-be ex, so I didn't want a single item in the house we lived in. The only thing I was concerned with was that she could not touch my 401k or other investments, given to me before the marriage. That's when my lawyer asked if I wanted the divorce to be fair and equal divorce or scorched earth. I looked down and thought for a few moments. The emotional turmoil I was enduring had reached the point I was causing actual physical pain. I knew the event I was living through had changed everything forever, and there was no going back. A week before, I'd been presented with a fair or no-holds-bar option. I would have gone with the fair route. But I felt nothing but loathing and disgust for the woman who had lied to me nearly a whole life and betrayed me like no one else had. I instructed my lawyer to take every available avenue to make the divorce as painful as possible. I told you this guy's going scorched earth. Any item my lawyer managed to get from my soon-to-be ex from me would just go into a big bonfire after everything was finalized. But at the moment, I envisioned that bonfire being so large and bright it could be seen from space. I wanted her to go after my wife financially, and if they could figure out the way to get the affair partner was to go after him as well. My state has alienation of affection laws, which allows a person to sue someone who contributed to the end of a marriage in civil court. I am dying to know what state this is. I know they exist, but I'm still dying to know. I told my lawyer if they discovered he is in a relationship to contact his partner. In short, I wanted to make everything hell on earth for them. I wanted to convey with my wife, I hated her beyond words, and I was out for blood. I wanted to destroy her life like she had so casually destroyed mine and let the pieces fall where they may. Usually it's the woman that's trying to destroy the guy, not the other way around, in the divorce. My lawyer called me at work today to let me know my wife had been served at her job. She's a teacher, mind you, in high school. She asked me to come by after work to talk with the messenger they'd sent to serve my wife papers. Just knowing she'd been served was grasping I would never be any part of her life again was enough. But I decided to listen to the messenger in the sole hopes he might tell me that my soon-to-be ex jumped out the window. He and I sat in an office without my lawyer present, and he explained he'd taken the paperwork to school around 10 o'clock in the morning. He checked in with the front desk as a courier, and a member of the faculty led him to my wife's classroom. She was in the middle of a lesson as the employee opened the door. Now, this part I find a little strange, that the high school would let some random person in. I just don't buy that. That's a little off. Maybe it happened, but it seems off. But okay. The courier said he walked past the staff member, asked my wife to verify her name, and told her she'd been served with official divorce papers due to infidelity. He told me my soon-to-be ex was obviously shocked at the speed I was moving, embarrassed to be served at work in front of her students, and was fighting back tears. He told me as he walked out, she fell onto the floor and began sobbing uncontrollably. That was all good to hear, and I was glad she'd gotten the paperwork. Again, that part makes me question, but you never know. Honestly, I'm not even sure why I'm writing this out. It's been a bit cathartic, but I don't need advice. Well, at least I don't think so. As stated, I have everything planned out and the direction is in motion and will take place. It just hurts so bad, I'm truly struggling to find a reason to carry on. I don't want to. I'm not going to end it all. There is no part of me that wants to die. I want my life back, and that is an impossibility. There can be no new life in my future with someone else. She destroyed something pure and beautiful one can only attain once in a given lifetime. See, that's not true. I get this. This guy's very religious. He was raised in a certain religion. I don't know what it is, but you find out later on. And I get that he's just his heart torn out. But if he's a relationship type of guy, he can obviously get another, but he has to be very careful in a serious screening process. But after this, he thought he had the great one. Because it obviously sounds like he wants to be a father. But unfortunately, in today's world nowadays, the unicorns are extremely rare. He says, after and despite her tears, she didn't even care. She took what we had and turned it into ashes with her infidelity. I'm struggling to envision my life totally alone until the day I die, and I don't want to go on. I hate myself for ever giving her a minute of my time, much less the years of my life. It's not your fault. He didn't know. I mean, believe me, everything seemed cool. He didn't know. It's not his fault. He did what he could do. It's her fault. I felt like my entire life has been a wasted life. Sure, I have a career and the capacity to move on, but doing it alone the rest of the days is just overwhelming to me. Take it day by day. That's all he can do. And I promise to this guy, if he ever hears this or anybody else, it will get better. It will. And many of you guys have been burned badly. You do know it's awful for a while, but it does get better. I suppose I need to explain why I said I will never be a father and will be alone from here on in. But I was raised a certain way with a certain mindset. My wife was raised this way as well. It's one of the reasons we were so close. I guess in the end, she didn't give a damn about her proper upbringing and decided to destroy us both in the process. I was raised to believe that humans were never meant to run around sowing oats and having meaningless you-know-what with random hookups. I believe that the most ideal relationship a human can achieve in this life is one that has only known each other. Basically, one relationship, basically. I understand these modern times that point of view sounds archaic to most, if not all. But two people discovering intimacy together, every act of intimacy is a beautiful thing. Nobody has to worry about past partners. Nobody has to worry about diseases and pregnancy. Nobody has to worry they are doing something as well as a previous partner, their significant other had. Because there's no other partners. You learn together. You grow together, and instead of living a life that you would remove any possibility of STDs, unwanted pregnancy, paternity fraud, etc. Our world has made ways to correct these foolish mistakes instead of having to face the consequences of foolish people. Two become one, and nothing can come between them. Or that's what I was led to believe. That is the way romantic relationships were meant to be, but humanity has run from that mindset. Well, we're in Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0. That's today's world now. So for him to find somebody of his same upbringing and beliefs, it's going to be extremely rare, and he thought he found that. It is possible for him to find something such again, but it's going to take a lot of time, and this guy has to have a lot of healing if indeed that's what he wants. That's what my wife claimed to believe to me more times than I could count. I couldn't begin to tell how many times my wife claimed to be grateful we lived our lives the way we did. She said she cherished the fact that we could know each other in a way few people can anymore. I guess that was all BS lies, but it doesn't matter anymore. Because of that mindset, there can never be reconciliation, and there is no way I could ever view her as attractive after seeing what she was doing behind my back. 1,000 gallons of bleach and pressure washer couldn't remove the diseased infidelity filth she subjected me to. I view her as defiled, diseased, and dirty. A week ago, I could just think of my wife and get aroused. Now she couldn't lay before me naked and ready, and my reaction would be to spit on her in disgust before, again, vomiting. Damn, dude. And as I've known someone else, I could never have found that bond with another human being. I couldn't date a virgin even if I wanted to because due to my relationship with my wife, I couldn't be that hypothetical virgin deserves. I'm sure I will get some hate from previous progressive readers who view sex as something to do with random people for fun and list sex as a hobby on their Facebook page. That's all fine and smurfy. Opinions differ, and I know my viewpoint is far from standard anymore. But one man and one woman is the way it always has been supposed to be for me. My wife turned out to be the Jezebel, something I'm not going to say. So that's my loss and my own stupidity for choosing so poorly. I just don't think it's fair that I didn't commit the sin, but I'm the one who has to endure the hell of life the rest of the days totally alone. You know, I get this guy's in pain, but he doesn't have to be alone forever. And, you know, this is not his fault. He really has to understand it's her fault, not his. So there are a few minor updates here, but I'm not going to get into it beyond this point because this is a really long story, guys. You guys can read. I'll post some links here. But anyhow, guys, not kidding about the whole scorched earth thing, you know. But this was a good guy, did everything right in his mind. Really thought he found the great one, similar family values, background, religion, all that stuff. And look what happened. It's really sad, but this guy isn't messing around. Holy crap! I mean, I've done countless stories where the guys would just get the waterworks and the tears, they give a second chance, and just, you know, but this guy, no way, Jose, not happening. So, quite interesting there. Talk about scorched earth. I mean, he was going full-blown scorched earth. I mean, I've heard a lot of payback stories, but holy crap. But anyhow, guys, interesting one there. I really wish this guy well. Hope everything works out okay for him. You know, and anybody else in a tough situation like that, you know, you can get through it. Take it day by day. And even hour by hour, minute by minute if you got to, but you will get through it. Anyway, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.